Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mind Muscle podcast. Today's Taboo Buster, I am so excited about. We'll be digging really deeply into conscious eating, but namely talking about the carnivore diet with Coach JJ, whom I've had the pleasure of already speaking with once before. I'll be happy to share that link with you guys as well. But today we're going to go in really deep and discuss current events and things that are going on in the world of conscious eating and, again, namely the carnivore diet. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Coach JJ. Welcome.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you for having me again. I really enjoyed the previous interview that we had, and I definitely look forward to this one and hopefully many more. Thank you to everybody that is listening and that is interested in becoming a more conscious eater and hopefully learn more about what's going on out there with the world of nutrition and more in depth with what's the carnivore diet, which everybody probably hears about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we really get jumping into all the good, gushy stuff, I would love for you to share with everyone just who you are, how you really came to become so passionate about this, and then we'll start asking the fun questions.
Okay, yeah. Well, definitely, I think the part of me having gone through everything that everybody's going through or has gone through in the world of nutrition, eating habits, being chubby, wanting to look better, wanting to feel better. I started lifting weights because at 14, when I bought my first set of weights, I was always a chubby guy. Yeah, I was a chubby kid. My mother told me that if I wanted to be a good kid, I should eat all my food. So obviously I wanted to be a good kid, and I ate my food, my brothers, my sisters, and everybody else that left over on the table.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be a good kid. Who doesn't want to be a good kid?
Yeah.
So I created a really, really bad habit of eating too much. It was a really bad relationship with food, and it got me to the point that obviously I didn't like myself. I didn't feel comfortable with myself, but I was always into looking for more and more solutions to it. All the diets, all the exercise. I never stopped. I've been a gym rat since. And I've been into nutrition very much. I enjoy cooking a lot, so that didn't help. And let's see, 15 years ago, before I turned 40, I'm 55 currently, I decided something's got to change. And so at that moment, I said, okay, at 40, which is 3 months later, I will become better than what I've been all my life, hopefully better than when I was 18. If you guys go to my website or my Facebook, you'll see pictures of me being an 18 and pictures of me at 40. And I achieved it. I achieved it the old way, lots of exercise, lots of diet, everything like that. And it was good, but it wasn't all there. And I was having the same problems with my clients. I was mainly a personal trainer, and I was forcing everybody to work out, which nobody likes to work out. I mean, I do, but most people don't. I see the gym as my playground. That's where I go and have fun like a kid. But a lot of people don't like it. And so I was having always that problem. And I knew there was something missing. I knew that old way of doing things where you eat 3 times a day, plus you put 2 snacks in between, that was not working. There was something missing. Here comes 45. I said, okay, I'm going to do better than a 40. Did the same thing, went through it, and then 50 showed up. And in the process of turning 50, I came across Dr. Jason Fung and his book, The Complete Guide to Intermittent Fasting. I was listening to his podcast with him and Dennis Prager. And Dr. Jason Fung said, I was in the middle of working out when I'm listening, and he says, you do not lose muscle when you do intermittent fasting. And that just blew my mind. I was like, what? You crazy? I've been working out for 30 years, and you're going to tell me now that if you don't eat, you don't build muscle? You only build muscle when you eat. And I said, okay, I got to find out what's going on here. I bought the book, I read it 3 times, I applied to myself. I always apply to myself everything before I do it with my clients. And when I saw how amazing that worked, how incredibly well I felt, and how my workouts were actually better when I didn't eat, I said, okay, I have to do this with my clients. I'm making this a little long, but you understand what I'm going through because I have lived all this. Every time a client comes to me, I have gone through what they've gone through. By the way, I used to be 230 pounds. I am 175 now. I'm in the best shape of my life, and I have sustained that for the last 6 years with no problems. I'll give you more details about that. But anyway, so I started applying intermittent fasting with my clients. I asked them if they wanted to do it. They did. And they started seeing the results much faster, much easier, still working out, but not as necessary. So I turned off the personal training process and I advocated myself to fully be a online keto and fasting coach. And that worked wonders because I could finally promote that you can lose weight, be healthy, and be in better shape without exercising. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying exercise is not good. Exercise is very good. You have to exercise, but it's not what you need to lose weight. Exercise is not going to help you lose weight. Intermittent fasting, keto, controlling your food, watching what you're eating, being a conscious eater, improving your relationship with food is what's going to do it. If you add exercise to it, that's just the cherry on top. So went to 50, better than 45, and finally I turned 55 and went pretty much the same as 50. I don't know where, I don't feel like I could do more. I don't want to become huge or bigger. I'm just maintaining myself and stay away from injuries and things like that. So that has been my whole process of getting here. And the latest that has occurred, I feel it's been a normal evolution of this process, where I used to have the regular diet that everybody had and had all the kinds of problems that I had. I went into the ketogenic diet, which was a complete shock for me because for 40 years I was avoiding fat and now have to eat more fat. So not only had I a mental blockage against fat, but physiologically my body wasn't ready for that. And it's true. You have to ease yourself into more fat when you start the ketogenic diet. That's very key. And I'm glad that happened to me because now I know, now I can teach it. And so, but as I get more and more into the process, I'm turning more into a carnivore, because the only difference between the ketogenic diet and the carnivore diet is simply that you don't eat any vegetables. Where in the ketogenic diet, you stop eating all the processed carbohydrates, all the bad carbohydrates, and you eat some good vegetables, good between marks, if you want to call it that way. So to me, it was very easy because I've really never liked vegetables. I was never into vegetables. I never felt that vegetables did good to me. So it has been really easy for me. And that's something that people should look into and find by themselves, whether they really feel good eating vegetables or not. And all it takes is a week. You stop eating vegetables for a week, and if you feel better after that, you should keep going. That would be my advice.
I love this. Okay, well, first of all, kudos to you for your kind of, I guess, research process, right? You do it first, and then you let your clients enjoy the benefits once you've experienced it. I resonate with that. I think that's a wonderful way to do anything. So I'm curious, as you know, we just had COVID-19, just a few years ago. And I'm really big on talking about the impacts of that and how we have literally like a global trauma response to dealing with the pandemic. And that has created a bunch of health issues. And not only that, mental health and suicides, addiction, like full spectrum. And one thing that I'm passionate about, which I love how you intersect so effortlessly with this, is teaching how eating consciously can actually heal you. And I'm curious on the carnivore diet, because I've heard a little bit about it. It's starting to become a trendier topic, right? People are starting to talk about it more. But I don't know enough, and I would love for you to educate us on what are the benefits of that? Like, health benefits? What overall benefits? Why are you so bought into this, right? Why are you now transition to this to where you are wanting to give it back to everyone else?
Mm-hmm. Whew. I can go for hours, so you limit me, okay?
No,
There is so much. There is so much to say about this. Let's start from the point of view of ancestral eating. What is ancestral eating? It's what our ancestors used to eat. So, based on paleontology, we've been here for at least 2 million years. And if you go back, don't go 2 million, go a million years back, okay? What were we eating? What were we doing out there that sustained us to actually survive for all these years up until now? And the research shows that we were pretty much 100% carnivore.
Hunters and gatherers.
We were hunters. We ate anything that moved for a couple of reasons. It was what we're meant to do. There's been good research done about our digestive system, and one of the closest digestive systems to humans is actually dogs. Coincidentally, our best friend, it has very close digestive system as humans. So a lot of experiments have been done on dogs.
Interesting.
And I think everybody knows, and there's no doubt, that dogs are carnivore. And so if there is such a similarities between digestive system, we can conclude that ours is also a carnivore. And so back then, we were hunting everything we could. And it was because that's where we got the most value out of the effort. Actually, you can go a little bit more in depth here by saying we were after the biggest animals. Why is that? Well, because it took a lot of effort to hunt something, and it took a little bit of group help and do it. And by doing it that way, we could get more. Where imagine yourself chasing a rabbit. Not only it takes you very long because it's a very fast little thing, but if you get to catch it, it's nothing. There is nothing in it. It's very little. So humans naturally went after big prey because they knew they were going to get more bang for the buck.
Sustenance.
And you would say, well, yeah, it makes sense. I'm not a paleontologist. I'm not a doctor. Let's put that clear here. But in my own research and what I have read and what others have researched, it makes sense because pretty much that's what it was. Unfortunately, there is a misconception where when you look at a tree of apple or mangoes or any fruits out there, that's not how they used to be. We have developed most modern foods. I always bring a good example to the majority of people, mostly my age people in their 50s and 40s. If you go back to when we were children, I remember one of my favorite fruits was raspberries. And raspberries used to be about this little. I mean, this little, okay? Have you seen a raspberry lately?
Yes.
Not only they're huge, but back then they used to be very sour. They have really good flavor, but they were sour. Today they're as sweet as sugar.
Yeah, it's my daughter's.
We have genetically modified.
Yeah.
Yes. So raspberries is one of them. Look at every single fruit. If you go in the history of fruits, you go back, none of them look like the way they look now. There were little things that were mostly berries. We have developed it. In fact, the Aztecs developed a lot of the corn that we eat today. Aztecs used to eat a corn that was this big. This is the wild corn that they used to use. And they use a lot of development to change it to and make it bigger. It's a natural way to do it things. But yeah, most of that. So it wasn't economical. It wasn't practical for humans to be eating any of that stuff, because not only it was very little, but there was no real nutrients out of it.
It's wild to me that our food is transformed and changed so much. I keep hearing
Yes.
about this. I had a conversation with someone not long ago about how we've GMO things from being kind of seeds to seedless, and how
Yeah.
seeds are almost like impossible to find or something.
Yes.
I didn't dig too deeply into the story, but
Mhm.
it's interesting.
Yeah, and regardless whether you consider GMO controversial or not, it's been modified.
Yeah,
Whether that modification is good or bad,
right.
that's another world, okay? But we have modified things. And so for us to say that our ancestors were going around gathering mangoes, papayas, and oranges and apples, no, that didn't happen. When was the last time you saw a drawing on a cave of people sitting around a bowl of salad? You never see that. You never see vegetables drawn on a cave. All you see is animals. You see hunters. You see big animals being hunted. I mean, that tells a lot.
That's an
Okay.
interesting visual of salad around a
Yes.
campfire.
Yeah, and remember, we were not just hunting them for the meat, but their skin was
Yeah,
used for clothing. It was used for protection. It was a lot of
purpose.
benefits we got from animals, and we ate from the nose to the tail, and we even ate the marrow from the bones. It's been excavations have shown how they shatter the bones to eat the marrow from inside. So
Yeah.
an animal provides a ton of nutrients, super bioavailable nutrients for humans, where leaves, berries, no, I don't think so.
My
And
daughter
so
would be so happy to hear that.
your daughter,
Yeah, she's gonna be happy. She doesn't have to eat her vegetables anymore.
uh, well, you know what? It's funny you bring that up, because when was the last time you presented a plate of broccoli to a baby or a youngster and they went after like crazy? No. We always hear, come on, you have to eat your vegetable. Come on, eat your vegetable. You have to
No,
push kids to eat vegetables.
I'm gonna challenge that because
Yeah.
I've kind of normalized eating healthier with my daughter. So she loves broccoli. But yeah, I hear you. I do.
Did she started
Yeah.
loving broccoli from the moment that you give it to her?
She was always pretty open-minded with it.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that she was madly in love with it, no.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But yeah, you're
And
right.
was it broccoli by itself, or you have to put cheese or something?
No, raw broccoli.
Okay. Well,
She
you know,
actually
I
pref
must admit there are exceptions, but you
Yeah.
never hear, yeah, you never hear parents saying, "Come on, you have to eat your meat. Come on, eat your chicken." No, it's always about vegetables, right?
Typically,
I
that
wanna,
was me when I was a kid, so yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, another thing that I find it funny, every time somebody talks about detoxing, oh, I'm gonna do a detox. I gotta go a detox. It's always a plant that will detox it. So you drink this tea and then you spend 3 days in the bathroom. It's never an animal substance. It's never something that you eat from an animal. It's always a plant causing
Interesting.
you to detox. So once again, are we carnivore? Are we omnivore? Are we vegetarians? Are we vegans? To me, there is no argument there. I think we have been carnivores from the moment we came on Earth, and we still are. The other issue here is that we only became agricultural about 12,000 years ago. Agriculture for real, creating, harvesting the soil, was about 12,000 years ago. And so, in the time of evolution, 12,000 years is not enough for our genetics to change.
Mm.
We have not adapted yet to the eating of vegetables as we have. We're trying or saying we are. And so, physiologically, we're proving that we're not adapted to that. And so, this is something that has come into the light, because it's been more than 30 years now that we've been obeying the government when they tell us via the pyramid that we're supposed to have all these grains, all these vegetables, all these beautiful things that come from fruits and stuff, and we're only getting sicker and fatter, and it worse. we have been very obedient. I used to be one of them.
Yeah.
Eating the whole thing.
When I followed that pyramid, I always felt the worst. And I always was very hypersensitive to it. I remember even as a kid, I'd follow what everyone said, okay, do this, do that. And I always would just feel like crud afterwards. And I remember feeling that way and thinking like, is this how I'm supposed to feel? And it's interesting in hindsight, right? How intuitively I already really was asking those questions as a kid. And on the other end of that, actually, I'd say a couple years back, right, I started following a more keto diet, and I started really paying close attention to like mostly natural occurring foods, no processed foods, essentially. And my energy level completely shifted. And I've played around with more protein and even that, like going from, I guess, researched the vegetarian diet, and I researched a more protein sustainable diet, right? And I felt like I lacked so much energy on the vegetarian diet. I remember feeling depressed and anxious, and like I had all of these physiological symptoms, and I thought it was mental health stuff, but it was really the food I was eating. And then I went more to keto, right? And I stayed away from grains, and I was eating, mostly vegetables. I didn't have a lot of anything beyond that, like maybe a salad here and there, and like a steak, chicken, eggs, avocado, stuff like that. And I felt so much better, just so effortlessly. So I question these things. I'm like, why? And then once I started having these physiological symptoms, right? Like, okay, I felt like I had all of these mental health disorders when I was eating vegetarian, and they completely went away when I was eating this way, right? So you think deeply on that and start to question, okay, how do vegetarians feel as a whole? Like, are they intaking the right nutrients? Is diet really helping them, or is it creating a kind of a destructive environment in their body and they don't even realize it?
If you look at every single diet out there, all of them, vegetarian, veganism, all of them, carnivore, whatever, there's one thing in common. They all reduce the amount of carbs, and they all take away the processed carbs. That says a lot right there. If that's all you do, you're way beyond. Okay, you're going to see a lot of benefits. And that's why everybody that starts veganism or vegetarianism or carnivore or keto, they feel perfect the first, 6-7 months, depending on the person.
Right.
Because you're taking away so many garbage and toxins of your body that your body automatically is going to feel well. Okay. But also think about this. There is no such a thing as an essential carbohydrate. Okay. What is a carbohydrate? Anything that comes out of a plant. Okay. Everything that is a plant, it's a carbohydrate. Proteins, animals don't have carbohydrates. There is no carbohydrates in fat. Protein and fat come together for the most part. Okay. So carbohydrates are not essential. There's not one carbohydrate that your body cannot live without it. On the other hand, there is protein is essential. Fats are essential. You will never survive without protein and fat. And even deeper, you will not survive with just protein. You have to have fat. Okay? So a human being can perfectly survive and thrive, not just survive, thrive, based on the carnivore diet, simply because we don't need carbohydrates. We don't. There's no need. So people say, well, what about the glucose in your body? Your body makes it. Your body makes enough glucose in order to stay alive and do what it needs to do.
This is so interesting.
It's called a process called gluconeogenesis. Out of protein, your body makes glucose. So think about that. If we don't need it, why are we eating it? So, for example, you look at a panda bear. What do panda bears eat? Bamboo. That's it. They don't eat anything else. How can they survive only in bamboo? That's what people tell me. How can you survive only on meat? Well, a panda bear does it. A lion lives off of meat only. A koala bear only eats the leaves from that special tree. And guess what? If any of those three go out of their diet and try something else, most likely they get sick. In fact, it doesn't even occur to them because that's what they feel like eating, period. Okay, you're never going to see a lion eating grass or mangoes.
It's so deeply ingrained in our, I guess, biology at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our history and past. It makes a lot of sense.
And that's where I like to get into in the making sense. Now, don't believe what I'm saying. You think about it, and you go and do your own research.
Absolutely.
And go from the back, go from years ago and see what is it that cavemen were eating and why. And people say, well, but they were not living as much back then. How do you know that? That's not true. There is a lot of findings. Not only they lived long time based on the environment, okay? Obviously the environment was a little harsh back then. You have more danger to live with, okay? But also they were better developed. They're talking about humans being a lot taller, a lot bigger, a lot more muscular. And so if you can do that by eating just meat, it makes sense. So like you said, it makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm curious too on the carnivore mixed with fasting.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know because we haven't really touched the fasting deeply yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say after our last discussion, and I'd be happy to share again that link that we had for people to dig deeper into what we talked about. We were talking about the research on, I remember we were talking about bacon and how bacon was good for you.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, and I want to give you some kudos for this, and I appreciate the knowledge, right? I was suffering from some pretty intense PTSD symptoms, and by eating a mostly keto and added fasting to my lifestyle, especially when I had the harshest symptoms, wow, like that was life-changing for me. That literally, I think it sped up my healing process.
Yeah.
And I really became very conscious and intentional about how I would eat, especially on the days when my symptoms were the most intense. And I give you kudos for that because you and I have those deep conversations. And I saw, I mean, even to this day, just so people can understand the depths of it before we push forward, I'm a recovering emotional eater. You know, I used to eat mostly fatty, but also I'd say even sugary and a lot of carbs when I was younger. And when I'm emotional in my past life, I would eat out more. I wouldn't cook. I got a little bit lazy on the consciousness portion of making sure I was healthy because I felt like, okay, well, I'm just gonna eat my emotions right now.
Right. Yeah.
I started noticing that on those days when I would regress back to those old habits, my symptoms were like 100-fold. And then on the days where I was more disciplined, and it was a muscle, it got better each time. And eventually, like to this point now, I'm pretty good at not even emotionally eating. It's really a conscious choice to emotionally eat now.
You want to feel good or you don't, right?
Exactly.
That's a choice now. Okay, no, I like bread or I like a steak. I don't want to feel good. I want to feel good.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. But I would it was amazing. All my symptoms would just vanish. And I would literally be in anguish and it's a lot like that vegetarian thing I was referring to earlier. Mm-hmm. But it was just more about what was I putting in my body. And just to kind of dive into that deeply before we go even deeper with you is I really saw a huge change in my life.
That's awesome. I'm glad.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
And
my satisfaction. Every time I hear a successful story of somebody that tried something that I told them and they got results out of it, that's amazing to me. Let
life
me touch a little. Go ahead.
life-changing results, yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you. Let me touch a little bit on that because I want people to understand that the ketogenic diet is nothing new and it's not a fad. It's actually scientifically proven. And the origins of the ketogenic diet are very interesting because back in the early 1900s, there were a lot of cases of children having seizures.
Mhm.
And there was pretty much nothing about it. And they started experimenting on taking away carbohydrates from the kids because this we knew for more than 100 years before that. We knew that carbohydrates are not good for you. Believe it or not, we know this for 200, 300 years. We just forget about it and ignore it. So they knew that. So they said, well, we know that carbohydrates are not good. Let's try this. As soon as they took the carbohydrates away from the children, the episodes not only were reduced, but some of them were actually completely eliminated. So they're like, how, why is it happening? They started drawing blood and taking tests. They discovered the ketone body in the blood. They
Mm,
started realizing that the more ketogenic you become, the better the brain works. And then they were avoiding the seizures. Take 10, 15 years into that. That was the treatment for that. That was the treatment for depression. That was the treatment for any kind of emotional brain problems. They were using that very effectively. Unfortunately, here comes pharma. Pharma
mhm.
creates the little pill and say, no, 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 don't forget about that. You have to take this, and this is going to help. And that's how the ketogenic diet was lost for a while. Okay.
Yeah.
So go back 10, 20 years ago, the ketogenic starts coming back again. Atkins was a ketogenic diet. It's just he didn't call it that way. And here we are again with the ketogenic diet being proven to not only be healthy for you, but to help a lot of people that have brain issues, brain traumas, brain syndromes, and it
Neuroinflammation.
works. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The neuroinflammation is the root cause of so many things,
Yes. Yes.
if not everything. And I
Right.
mean that the sugar, the just anything that inflames your body
Yeah.
and your system. There is a healthy level of inflammation that your body needs to sustain. So I don't want to completely make
Correct.
inflammation seem taboo, but neuroinflammation, you can't think clearly. That's when you have the mental health stuff. That's when your body, the physiological symptoms show up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I've done a lot of research on this as well, and there's a lot of uh, functional medicine doctors who are very loudly preaching these things right now. The more natural approach, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
keto diet is huge. That is definitely one of them. And I'm curious on the carnivore diet. I've never actually tried that myself
Mm-hmm.
completely. So I'll have to I'll have to do my research and get
Well,
back.
like I said, yeah, it's just a normal evolution. If you really don't care much about vegetables and you realize that vegetables are not really good for you and you don't need them, um, why do it? You will never hear me, at least I don't see myself ever saying, I don't like steak. I
Right.
have eaten too much tuna to the point that I say, okay, I cannot have more tuna. I have eaten too much chicken to the point that I am done for a while. Uh, but a steak is not happening.
That's
Okay,
true.
and
I
there is
agree.
something to say about that. Yeah, and so very few people have a problem with steak. Some of them are caused simply mental because, like I said, I have problems with fat. Some people are being told that meat is bad for you, that it stays with you for 12 years. Wow, I don't know where that one came from, but that's really bad. That is hard to digest, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah,
A
I've
lot
heard
of
that one. I've heard
uh,
that meat. I think actually someone in my family was vegetarian at the time,
yeah,
and they preaching how, and I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask that. That meat is the hardest to digest, and it stays or lives in your digestive system for years. And I remember him being so passionate about it and telling me all these things, and I'm like, really? I think I had like nightmares about this.
Think about this. You ever got on a splinter
Yeah.
that you cannot get out?
Yeah.
And so you can see the inflammation.
Yeah.
And you can see starts getting infected. And you can see that, hey, if you don't do something about it, it's going to get really ugly, right?
Right.
Well, what's the difference between that and 12 years of a piece of meat in your gut? You couldn't survive. In 24 hours, you'll be already dead because of toxins. If that's true, that infection will kill you in 72 hours. Because if something stays in your system for that long, it's nothing going to be but an infection.
I'm so curious where these things originate. Like, who is coming up with this stuff?
The saddest part is how many people believe it and repeat it. Not necessarily what
people are doing the research. And what I would love to do is research vegetarians about their well-being. And I'm curious about the mental illness portion of it, right?
Well, I wouldn't go so far as mental illness from vegetarianism. I will go more mental illness from processed foods.
Yeah.
Because there is plenty of chemicals and sugar and crap in it. I don't think necessarily vegetarianism causes mental problems, but based on what I've seen and what I've read, it's not the optimal diet for humans. You're not going to perform optimally. Now, that said, there is exceptions and there is timing for everything, okay?
Right.
You got bodybuilders that are vegetarian. You got athletes that are vegetarian. That's true. The question is, how long can they keep up with that?
That's what I'm saying. I'm so curious how they feel. Like, I think it would be very interesting to just have a full spectrum, like have people who are doing the keto carnivore, fasting lifestyle, and same maybe on the other end, but just switch the keto and carnivore with vegetarian, vegan. I'm curious. I would love to know. And that stuff's being pushed right now too, right? It's very trendy to be vegan. It's very trendy to be
But you see a lot of people declaring in public, I used to be a vegan vegetarian. I didn't feel well and I'm out.
Yeah. And I went early on. I've done a lot of behind the scenes research too, just out of curiosity, because I've always asked these questions from my own experience, not
everybody
because of people. And I remember finding some research on the vegetarian diet, and I don't remember the details. I should have brought this with me, obviously, but it was essentially saying that most people who are doing the vegetarian diet aren't intaking the proper nutritional content and value and nutrients that they need for their body to function at an optimal level and an optimal state. And these things are effortlessly found in things like steak, like you're mentioning. And there's a lot of talk of like nervous system, like nerves being dysfunctional and almost like, I don't remember the right word, but they're just not being maintained properly due to the lack of the nutrients in the diet, which was causing a lot of the other symptoms that the ugly symptoms people were feeling, right?
Yeah. So, very simple. Every single cell in your body, the almost the whole cell, but the most important part is the membrane. That membrane is pretty much full cholesterol. So if you're not eating fat, if you're not providing your body with fat and cholesterol, you're going to have problems. Yes, the body produces a lot of cholesterol itself, but it also needs it. Where are the vegetarians getting that from? That's just a little seed right there. Now, let's stop talking about vegetarian and talk about carnivore, because I think that's what we're here for. And those who want to know much of vegetarian, that's fine, but carnivore is what we need to talk about. The reason I like to push carnivore is because I think it's the real ancestral diet. I think it's what we come from, and I think it's what we need to go back. As there is not enough research on vegetarianism and veganism, and there is not enough research on carnivore either. There's many people out there with anecdotes, with their own experiences. There are people that have been carnivore for 30, 40, 50 years, and they're perfectly fine. And that's pretty much where the world of carnivore right now is based on other people's experiences, including mine. But again, to me, it makes a lot of sense. And it makes life a lot simpler, and nothing is better for me than making life simpler and faster and not wasting time with food and around food. Because like I said before, I used to like to cook. I wasted hours doing groceries, driving back, putting things away, preparing, cooking, cleaning, all this stuff. Well, imagine yourself cooking 4 pounds of ground beef, eating one and leaving the other 3 in the refrigerator. And every time you come, you grab another pound and you heat it up or eat it cold, whatever you want. Okay. And then look at how much time you're saving. Okay. So how does the carnivore diet work? Well, simply just eat meat. You have what they call the lion diet, which is just meat, water, and salt. Okay.
I ate a steak in honor of you last night, by the way.
Last night? Yeah, nice. Listen, people say, well, it's too expensive. No, you're not putting money on anything else. You're not buying any other stuff than just meat. So even though the prices of meat are higher than most other foods, since you're not spending money on anything else, now you have the money to buy good meat. Okay. So you got the lion diet, or you got what they call more the carnivore diet, where some people include eggs, some don't. Some people include dairy, some don't. That's up to you. I include dairy and eggs on mine. So a regular day for me could be anywhere from 4 to 8 eggs a day, whether it's in one meal or two. A pound to 2 pounds of beef, whichever choice I have that day. I am more into cow meat, but I have pork, I have chicken once in a while, fish, but my main thing is beef. And cheese, mostly hard cheeses, aged cheeses. Other than that, water and salt. What do I put in my meat? Salt. That's it. You learn to taste meat for what it is. Salt brings up a lot of that flavor. Every time I cook my meat, I don't drain the fat out. That fat stays with it. In fact, if I'm grilling, what I like to do is I sear my steaks as much as I can so that doesn't ooze the juices and the fat too much on the grill. And I'm staying in the medium temperature. I don't like to cook. I used to be a well done. Now I'm more a medium rare or medium type of person. I like to sear the fat nice and toasty, but the meat itself is medium. And that's it. What else you want me to say? That's what the carnivore diet is.
What about the quality of meat? Are you picky on what kind of meat you're buying? What kind of, I guess, cut? All of those different things. Or are you? What's your protocol? What do you recommend?
That question, I don't know if you brought it that way, but that question comes up a lot. And it comes from the standpoint that they say that if you don't eat organic or grass-fed, you're eating a lot of toxins because cattle has been given all the stuff, yada, yada, yada. Well, the research is showing that it's true. If you really find somebody that has grass-fed organic cows, you're going to eat a much cleaner meat, okay? But even the worst meat you can buy has a lot less toxins and chemicals than most of the vegetables that you're going to eat.
Interesting. I guess because the body filters it out, right?
Well, not only that, but in order to grow the crops these days that we have, they're highly dependent on chemicals and pesticides.
Right.
Not only that, but I'm going to say something that might be a little controversial for some people. Plants are trying to kill you. If you want to know more about that, listen to Dr. Anthony Shafee. He is an expert on that. I'm just quoting him. And I go by what he says and my own research and my own understanding. Every single living being in the world, it's trying to avoid to be killed or eaten. Every single one, including plants.
Cool. Yes.
Okay? So animals have claws, teeth, smells, spikes to defend themselves. They can run, they can jump, whatever. Plants can't. Plants, all they have is chemicals. All they have is toxins to make whatever is trying to eat them sick and hopefully kill it, so they don't keep eating them. Okay, and that's proven. This is not me saying this is the way it is. For example, gluten. Gluten is a toxin that plants create in order to avoid being killed. That's it. Simple as that. Okay, and so yes, we become gluten intolerant because we eat so much of it. Well, duh, that's what the plant is trying to do exactly. Make you sick so you stop eating it. But no, instead of that, we just take the gluten out and keep eating the crap. Oh, don't let me get out of this. So plants are trying to kill you.
On that, the gluten piece. So
yeah. There's plenty. And you have lectin, LEC, lectin. That's a huge one. Beans are full of them. Tomatoes are full of that. Okay. And so now let me make something clear that it occurred to me right now. I do like tomatoes. I do like potatoes. I do like all this stuff. But again, it's about being a conscious eater. And if I want to feel my optimal, I'd rather to eat something that it's not trying to kill me. Okay.
You want to thrive instead of survive.
Exactly. So yeah, if I eat a potato, I'm not going to die, obviously. But little by little, those toxins accumulate in your body. If we eat a potato every other month or whatever, your body's going to be able to deal with that and get rid of it. But eating potato, rice, bread, pasta, everything all at once. I used to be a big eater of that. Every single day I had at least 2 or 3 of those. And so obviously I didn't feel well and I was overweight. And so since I become a carnivore, I don't even have to pay attention to how much I eat. In fact, I have to eat more because I find myself that if I don't, I lose weight, because that's how the body works. Okay. Another thing that comes out of the carnivore, which people would be interested in this, I hear a lot, oh, I'm not regular anymore. And they, well, what do you mean by regular? Well, I used to go to the bathroom 2 or 3 times a day. And you call that regular? That's actually bad. Okay. When you become a carnivore, you even save toilet paper and you save time because you go to the bathroom every other day or so.
This is funny. I love this.
And not only that, you go a lot less. Why? Because 98% of what you consume in the carnivore diet gets used, doesn't go to waste. Majority of the waste that goes out is your body actually cleaning up and getting rid of the stuff that doesn't work anymore and expose it out. But that's the difference, so it makes you think about, really, should I be regular or this is the normal way? Well, it's been normal for me now. So
well, when your body's not fighting, and this is just me thinking in the moment based on everything you've shared, when your body's not fighting against all these things that aren't really just naturally easily digested and kind of so deeply ingrained in our biology as being something that's good for us, makes sense,
right?
That it would cause disruption in our system.
Of course.
It would cause more inflammation. It would cause more disease, as people put it. So yeah, I mean, what you're sharing is interesting. I appreciate the light on the detail.
I'm very passionate about it, and I want people to learn this and understand and appreciate their bodies for what they are. And we're not that complicated. We just got to make it simpler for ourselves. Understand that every single cell in your body, it's meant to work at 100% its capacity. No cell in your body is going, oh, well, today I'm going to go only 40%. Oh, no, today I don't feel like working, so I'm going to do just 70%. No, every single cell, it's meant to do 100% of its job, only if it's provided with the right materials to work, which is fuel, which is food. And so if you give your body the best fuel, every single cell will work better, which means you're going to perform better, you're going to feel better, you're going to be optimal.
State.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So think of your body as a car that needs the best fuel in the world. You wouldn't give terrible fuel to your Ferrari. If you're not going to buy the cheapest fuel to a Ferrari, why are you buying the cheapest fuel for your Ferrari, the only Ferrari you have?
Yeah, absolutely. And the fasting piece is so important too,
Yes.
because it also gives your body that break and that time to really, for me, I've noticed this, that has made a huge impact in my life. And not only do you challenge your hunger pangs and your mental relationship with that, which gives you a discipline that is hard to really articulate until you try it, but it also, you learn to trust your body more, to really align with, okay, am I really hungry right now? Do I really need, like, what am I craving?
You become conscious.
Yeah. And I was craving steak the other night. I'm like, I'm going to get steak. And when I crave that, I know that it's my body's way of saying, like, and I always feel better afterwards. So whether it's some kind of magical thing going on in my head, I don't know, but that's the truth. So I just thought that was a good thing to note, is fasting is a good tool to add in as well. So
absolutely. Not only is it a good tool, it's a natural tool. It's actually what we're meant to do. And I'll explain why and how. My father told me when I was 13, and I blew it up. I didn't even understand what he meant by that. He said, the farther away we put ourselves from nature, the more we'll suffer. The point I'm making with this right now is how ignorant have we become of nature, which is what rules us. I mean, you cannot avoid nature as much in any way you can. It rules us, okay? So looking back at nature, going back to these humans that were out there hunting something to eat. If you see the majority of the predators in nature, they don't get what they want every single day. I think they said it's about 40% of the attempt to kill something. It's what they get. So 60% of the time they're going around without food. That could be a day, 2, 3, 4 days. Okay. In fact, that hunger that creates to not have food is what drives them to keep going and go get something. It's funny how that works, okay? Because what's the first thing that happens when you fill up your stomach? You do not want to do anything. You just want to lay there and rest, okay? So obviously, hunger is a drive force. So humans were the same way. We were not more successful than tigers, lions, or any other predator. And so naturally, we're genetically predisposed to fast more than to eat. We're supposed to spend more time empty than full. And so that's the importance of eating correctly, because if we're supposed to be empty most of the time, but we get a lot out of eating, why not put the right type of food so your body gets the most out of it when you get to eat? Obviously, we don't have to be days without food as we used to, but the benefits of that are so practical, are so obvious, that it makes sense that we actually fast on purpose, consciously, okay? Because there is so many benefits from fasting that again, it makes sense to do it because it's natural. It's what the body actually cares about and wants to. I mean, who doesn't want? Put it this way: who doesn't want a break? Everybody's always saying, "Oh, I need a break. I need a break. I need a break." Well, your body does need a break too.
Well, think about it too, right? Our electronics need a break too. We need to unplug them and plug them back in for them to work properly. And it's the same concept, right?
Yeah, and people say, "Oh, I cannot fast. There's no way I can go without food." How do you go? How do you do when you sleep? You sleep 6 to 8 hours and you have not one bite. How come you survive that? Have you ever gone through a whole day and then all of a sudden you say, "Oh my God, I haven't eaten today"? Well, how did you survive that? Have you ever had an operation or a procedure and they told you, don't eat 12 hours before the operation time? How do you survive that?
It's interesting. There's like a conditioned emotional addiction to
Addiction.
and I'm sure you see this more than anyone, but I definitely see it, and it's interesting because I'm not sure people are aware of it, and it controls their
No.
mental state too. You know, at times they're like,
Yes.
I'm hangry. I'm like, that's a choice.
Yes.
Like I've been
Well, no, actually, being hangry, it's a chemical reaction. Absolutely.
okay. Enlighten
It
us.
is. Okay. Well, because you're eating the wrong things and you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, you're spiking your insulin like crazy all the time.
Mm,
And so those spikes of insulin drive you crazy, literally.
that
And
makes
so
yeah.
when you have a spike, you're going to have a crash. That
It's like
crash,
addiction. Yeah.
yeah, that crash just drives you crazy. And obviously it's because your body needs something. Instead, if you maintain your levels of insulin stable, which is what the ketogenic diet and the carnivore diet does, which is another natural proof that they are good for you, okay? There is no hangry, there is none of that. You just eat when you feel like it, and then you stop eating when you don't feel like it. That's all it goes for.
Gosh, I love that. But yeah, at the end of the day, ultimately, you have the ability to create a healthier habit
Yeah.
to no longer be hangry anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Well,
like people using their astrological signs for why they're
Yeah.
jerks, you know, like I didn't
Right.
eat, I'm gonna be an a-hole to you.
well, you said it correctly. It's an addiction. It's a social norm. The number one claim I get from my clients is they always come back, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks after they started with me, and they go, I can't believe how food related we are. Everything is food. Everything they do has to do with food. And here I am controlling myself and becoming better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, improving your relationship with food not only is going to allow you to feel better and lose weight, but it's going to give you the control that you need over this environment that surrounds us with food. And usually it's not good food, because if it was steak all around us, there would be no problem. It's not that. And so you have to become the boss of food, not food the boss of you. And most people have a big boss, which is the food, and usually it's not good food. And so, a relationship with food is necessary. You don't have to have a bad relationship with a husband, with a co-worker, with a boss. You can always get rid of that relationship anytime you want. You cannot get rid of food. You have to have a good relationship with food. So you have to understand that you either become better at providing yourself with the right food, or you're going to keep suffering and perhaps not live very long. So.
Amen. I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So,
all right, so let me finish a little bit about intermittent fasting. This has so many ramifications, okay? So putting together keto, carnivore, and intermittent fasting, either one of those, it's always going to be helpful for you. It all depends on the person, all depends your activity, your goals, social life, schedule, okay? That's what I do. I put together your life with a system, and they have to mesh well, because if my system doesn't mesh your life, it becomes another stressor, and I don't want that. You don't need that, okay? So I customize my program for each and every one client, so it works as easy as possible. And obviously, as they become better and better at implementing the plan in their life, and the life starts improving, then they can actually perfect it a little bit better. So whether you fast more than you eat or you eat more than you fast, my motto is the longer and the more often you fast, the better. Now, who is it that need that? Well, the person that is looking to lose 20, 40, 70, 100, 200 pounds. You don't need food. You don't need food. All that fat you have on you will take you for 30, 40, 60, 6 months The longest fast ever is 382 days. He lost over 200 pounds, and the guy was fine.
Wow.
Okay, so think about all that fat you have on you as a tank full of fuel that will take that car as long as that fat is there. And that's exactly what it is. I love Survivor. I don't watch it, but I've seen some of it. And I love also Naked and Afraid. I don't know if you've seen those shows.
I've heard.
Naked and Afraid.
Yeah.
What was that?
I've heard of the Naked and Afraid. I've seen Survivor before.
Yeah, but what's the common thing? They all, at the end of it, they all lose weight and they all look skinny and they all say that they feel great and blah, 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 blah. Well, that's a sign right there. Okay, what happened to them? Well, they went an extreme, which is they don't have any food at all. Okay, but how do they survive? Well, because there's a ton of fat right there that keeps them alive.
Yeah.
So how can fat be bad when it's what your body actually stores to survive? Wouldn't be the other way around. If carbohydrates are good for you, we would be storing carbohydrates, but we don't. We store fat. So that's the key right there that people need to understand. Fat is good for you. Animal fat is good for you. You have to eat animal fat. Vegetable fats are not good. Seed oils are not good. Get rid of all that. People say, well, what about coconut oil and olive oil? Have at it. It's up to you. Okay? The research shows that those two are saturated fats that are good. So, okay. I choose not to. I don't need it. I don't care about it. I eat a lot of butter. I love butter. So butter is my thing. Anyway, so those two shows give you a good insight of how humans work. In Survivor, the only thing they give them is rice. They are going around all the time trying to hunt something that is moving. All right?
Yeah.
And they all say if they don't catch anything, they don't have energy, they cannot function, they can do very well because they have not had protein. In Naked and Afraid, it's the same thing. The beauty of Naked and Afraid is that these people are in the middle of nowhere in nature with tons of vegetation around them, but nothing to eat. Because berries are not as abundant as people think. Fruits are not everywhere. And the majority of the plants out there, if you eat them, will kill you. So what are they doing? They're trying to hunt something that is moving. In other words, an animal. And they say that's what they need. That's what they crave. If we were vegetarians, if we were omnivores, we could survive anywhere by just eating a leaf here, a leaf there, an acorn over there, a berry somewhere. It's not as abundant. It's not as supposed to be. So the majority of funguses out there, the majority of mushrooms out there will kill you or give you a nice high. So
yeah, that's
they're not good. Yeah, they're not good for you. So how do they know what to eat? Well, it's moving. And if it's moving, you can eat it. I mean, there's very little things in very little animals that will actually kill you if you eat them. Obviously, if you're talking about the reptilians, some frogs, things like that are poisonous. Okay, but the majority of fish you can eat. The majority of four-legged animals you can eat them. Monkeys, anything that moves pretty much can be eaten, and you'll be fine.
Imagine the trial and error of all the people who were alive when they had to hunt to survive.
Yeah.
Wow, like
guess what? We learned really quick, so not many people die.
Yeah. I mean,
so
it's interesting.
Yeah. So these people in these shows are fasting. They're fasting and they're surviving, and some of them actually most of the time say they feel better, but obviously that's extreme. That's they're not having the support that they need. For example, drinking good mineral water. The majority of people are not drinking good water.
Yeah.
Okay. The water that you get from the tap is a water that is highly processed and treated and full of all the chemicals that you don't need. Where water from a creek, from a well, which is full of minerals, which again, minerals are electrolytes. And if you can hear people fasting, they say, well, you gotta have your electrolytes. Correct. Where do people in nature used to get them? From the water they were drinking. Oh, but that water was dirty. Well, back then we had much better bacteria in our stomachs and stomach that will kill that, and we survived. We didn't have filters, we didn't boil anything, we just drank the water. And
Yeah.
so these people don't have sometimes choices. Obviously, they don't feel well. And like anything else, even though intermittent fasting is natural, because we lost that connection with ourselves, we need a little bit of practice. I don't expect anybody to jump into fasting. Although I have my clients, which I call them the freak clients, okay, that as soon as they start with me, they go head first, 5 days straight. My goal is to teach my clients to fast up to 5 days, okay? But I never push anybody to do it at once. But I have some of them that just go and they go and they go and they do it. Some of them start and don't finish it. That's fine. It's all a matter of practice. It's all a matter of you getting to know yourself and what you're capable of. So I have on the other side people that if I tell them to fast for 6 hours, they think they might die. So I have to grab them by the hand and walk them into, okay, let's do 3 hours first, and then we do 4 hours, you know. So humans are a bunch, and they're all different, but that's what I do.
Yeah, it's a mental block, you know. It's
Yeah.
it's the emotional addiction, essentially.
Yeah.
Response.
Emotion. Yeah.
But yeah,
We are emotional eaters. You mentioned that too, and that was a great comment that you did. Uh, 99% of our actions are based on emotions. We
yeah,
like to say that we're rational beings. We always think about everything. Now we don't. If you think about it, including myself, most of our
we're
decisions
human.
are emotional.
Yeah, we're human. And
Yeah,
there
yeah,
are, for me, what I help people with is really changing people's physiological state is really what helps them get into that optimal state. And that
yeah,
includes diet. That includes
yeah.
everything you've mentioned to
Your
the T.
chemistry, your chemistry, yeah.
And what I find to be the most common disruption in all the people around me or the people who are seeking coaching or assistance in any way is their diets suck. They're drinking a lot of alcohol or they're using drugs, maybe like smoking pot or whatever, you know, and they're doing all these additional things that are really just not putting them in an optimal state. It's really that simple. And I
Right.
know a lot of people are so addicted to the emotional attachment to
Hmm.
these things. It's
Yeah.
so hard unless I get that freak client, like you
Mm.
mentioned, you know, and those people are very few and far
Yeah.
between, but when they
Yeah.
show up, it's so refreshing because they just go all in and they
Yeah.
see the results because they do. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's interesting and it's so true. And I love the details of everything you shared today and totally appreciate your time and energy and your heart. And more than anything, I am sure whoever has the ability to listen to this will learn a lot more about this. And I'm gonna do some research. I'll get back to you. I'll
Absolutely. Please.
you know
There's
how
plenty. I want to, after we're done, I'm going to send you a list of the doctors that I follow. Okay. And so
cool.
I want the audience to perhaps, go and listen to these people. I'm no doctor. Okay. But I have listened to these doctors. I've done tons of research. I find myself reading medical papers that I never thought that I would find interesting. But, I have gotten deep into this, and by listening to these doctors and the things they say, I just get even more curious and I do more research. But I always recommend to listen to these people, and not just those. Find every other. I mean, there's plenty of people out there talking about these things. Some of them go one way, some of them the other way. But it's in the end, collect all that knowledge and make your own knowledge, and
And
do it yourself.
absolutely. That's my philosophy on everything. That's why I created this podcast so we
Yep.
can educate people and they can do as they please with the information they have. So thank you again, Coach JJ.
Yeah.
I would love for anyone who's listening to know how can they get a hold of you? Is
Mhm.
there a website, an email, any way that people can reach you? If you could share that with us. And also, do you have anything going on and currently? Are you looking for any specific client? how can we serve you and give back to you as well?
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. My website is ketoandfastingcoach.com. You can look at the testimonials there, and you can look how I do things, and you can look at my plans and my prices there, and you can actually schedule a free consultation. I offer everybody a free consultation. Uh, the goal of the free consultation is not only for you to find out if I'm going to be of help to you, but also for me to find out if you're a good candidate for me to help you. Because there's nothing worse than having to work with somebody that you don't click. And
Right.
humans have to click, otherwise it doesn't happen.
Right.
And so it's for my own safety and for their own safety. And you can do that. I'm on Facebook, In Shape at Any Age. That's my Facebook. And you can find my phone number in Facebook, or you can find my phone number on the website. But usually I work better if you contact me via the website and either send me a message or schedule a free consultation. Special wise, yeah, I got the holidays coming. I got a lot of people that say, oh, no, I'm not going to do now. I'm going to wait until I gain a lot of fat and then do it in January. Now, they don't say it like that, but that's what they are saying. So why don't you just why don't you at least don't gain anything? My goal always over the holidays, don't gain. Okay.
Yeah.
And then in January we can lose. But if you can avoid gaining 5, 7, 10 pounds this holidays, which you haven't lost yet, the ones from the past holiday, okay, that's a goal. That's a good goal. So I'm offering 10% to anybody that listens to this podcast and mention this podcast, 10% out of the first month. And that will be incentive enough for you to actually enjoy your holidays, but don't gain weight.
I love that. Thank you for the generous discount for listeners. We appreciate you. And if there's anything else you'd like to share before we head out?
If that was the case, I would go for another hour. So no, I can't.
I know. I feel like we for forever, which is awesome. Basically, you'll be back is what I'm saying.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I enjoy it very much.
Yeah, we're always learning and growing, so there's always more to share. But yeah, so thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you as well. And I hope this added some clarity and hoped that you are able to choose a more conscious diet and way of living, just at least being inspired to do such today. You don't have to go all in, but if you're that person that goes all into everything, may today be the day that you are inspired. Anyways, thank you guys. Have a good one. Thank you, Coach JJ.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a great one.